In the case where we are now, sorry, where we are now, where we need to do some level of equipping, not just physical equipping, and then some level of maintenance. How can the two of them go hand in hand? Because you talked about technical equipment, mental equipment, plus the physical equipment. So how would the two of them go hand in hand?
You see, my anger today is that the logistics chain of the Nigerian army is practically zero. The Obasanjo regime came with this monetization and it was extended to the military. So instead of you going to the Nigerian Army Mechanical Electrical Workshop to get your vehicles serviced, everything you need, you go for your spare parts, you go to ordnance, get what you want as spare parts, call the image chaps, fix them for you. There is nothing anymore. Okay, look at what we are bringing into the country today. A lot of the equipment coming in now, most of them are breaking down. Because people went, packed these things, dumped for you. Instead of saying, okay, for the total cost of any item, you need about 30% of that cost for spare parts and training. Nothing. All they want is just bring them in. And when they come in, there are no spare parts. At the end of the day, the aim for bringing them in is defeated because you can't take this into battle when you don't have the spare parts to fix them. If you go to Maiduguri today, you see junks. And this is the season these chaps need these things, because if you cannot effectively handle Sambisa between now and March, when the rain starts from Cameroon, you can't go into that place. I'm not saying that is the major attraction, but the fact remains that once it is March of the year, any year, the rains start in Cameroon, the flooding, the entire water drains into Sambisa, up to your waist level. You cannot move. So there is a need for us to have everything we need to be able to clean up some of these areas before the next rainfall.
I'm seeing two areas here. Perhaps we'll add a third, because we have about 24 days to the end of this year, 24 days to the end of the deadline given by the president. And some of these revelations are really, really shocking. The third one has to do also with welfare, which we also have to look into. And again, we have heard from some quarters about welfare of these people. We've also seen how some of them have challenged authorities and how that has put them in a mess. You're not in service now, so I'm quite sure you can speak freely on welfare of our soldiers fighting the war against terror.
The issue of welfare had been a long-standing battle. One, you see, it's difficult for the soldier to believe that this is what he is entitled to if he does not physically see it. Most times your money is paid into your account, apart from your ration allowance, which you could be given physically, because you are in a theater. And then there are things like your food. You might not be impressed with what you get. It might not come when you expect. So it brings a lot of conflict. Then coupled with the fact that in terms of mobility today, sincerely speaking, the Nigerian army is the worst off. Right now, and sincerely speaking, unless the president decides to really look at it critically, the army does not have enough vehicles to carry out this battle. I'm talking of even basic Hilux vehicles.
Now that's shocking.
They need a lot of these things. You can go around the entire military formations. You will be shocked that even right in the battlefield today, these guys do not have most of these things. They need them. We are talking of basic ammunition, 7.62 special that should be available everywhere. These guys do not have what they need.
Captain Adoba, a lot of people will be arguing with you. That
I am saying it because
not in there, so you cannot be saying what they have and what they don't
I am
have.
saying it because, as far as I'm concerned, I have been with these people. I relate with them on a daily basis. I know what touches them. And I wouldn't be here saying it because I want to feel big or to feel relevant. No, I am talking about lives. You are from the community. You know what, in my community, I'm an Idoma man, in my small village, in Igakwaya there, if one single dead body comes into the entire community. Nobody leaves to the farm. Nobody leaves to anywhere until he is buried. And the chain reaction is that you see so many families rendered permanently useless because the breadwinner is gone.
You know, the whole essence of this, Captain Adoba, is to motivate the troops and also spoil the government and move the president, especially now the president or the presidency, to go see things for himself and see where we're lacking, because this is a fight for all. Looking at it critically now, you say some of this things, we've looked at mobility, we've talked about welfare, but the issue of mobility, which you just highlighted, is very key here. And in the face of the petrol scarcity that we're getting to experience now, one wonders how they also get fuel to fuel some of these vehicles. What do you think we can do to reverse some of these anomalies, because that's what they are?
You see, in each brigade level, you have the supply and transport section of the core of the army. They have their pull points.
That's the S&T unit.
S&T. They have petroleum points, they have dispensing points, but because in the early 70s and 80s, they felt they were actually misapplying these things. In the early 90s, it stopped. So they no longer have that. So for now, what we are saying is that even if the thing is monetized, let people have access to these things, especially those of them in the battlefield. There is absolute need for them to have everything in abundance. You talk about ordinary RPG. You have RPG, you don't have the bombs. And meanwhile, a single Boko Haram guy with a motorbike, with 2 or 3 of his colleagues, they carry about 20, 30 bombs. And yet, you, with all your might, federal might, you cannot have access to these things.
Captain Adoba, the picture really looks bleak for the military. One would have expected that things would be different, especially as we've had several presidents, even the current president being former military men. Now, the issue of insecurity is spreading to some parts of, to other parts of Nigeria. We have the issue of the independent people of Biafra, calling for cessation, and we have pockets of trouble here and there. With the situation on ground and the December deadline staring us in the face, is our federal government really ready to take this fight head on?
Yeah, actually, I appreciate Mr. President's political will to end this conflict. If you compare it to what happened between 2011, 2012, 2013, there's nothing to write home about. That period, if we had had the same political will, this issue wouldn't be existing today. But I am 100% comfortable that Mr. President will solve this situation. And the only way he can go about it is to pump enough resources into this defense ministry and get the necessary materials right to the battlefield.
But he can't do this alone. We've had cases of diversion of funds for defense in the past. How can these loopholes, these leakages be blocked?
Okay, let me give you an instance. When Lieutenant General T.Y. Dajima was the Minister of Defense, every major contract comes from the defense. But for you to be awarded a job, the service requiring this service must approve and send that it needs this item. That is, for instance, the Chief of Army Staff will insist, yes, we need this APC, we need this tank. Nobody will hijack kits at the highest level and say, no, give them this. With that, we're getting what they wanted. But the problem we're facing is, from nowhere, somebody gives you something and say, go and take it. And if you say, no, you don't need it, they say, well, that's your business. These are the problems we face.
So many problems here, and I'm excited we have opened a whole lot of conversation here on this particular matter. We'll stay on that. We do hope that sometimes you also find time to come over to Lagos for us to join in this conversation. As you did say, it's a talk that all Nigerians must be interested in, and we do hope that the presidency surely would have heard some of your complaints and suggestions on this fight against terror. 24 days is just staring us in the face, and we do hope that something will be done to spur the men and women fighting the war in the Nigeria's northeast. Retired Captain Sunday Adoba, security expert, many thanks for spending time with us this morning.
Thank you.
And we do hope before Christmas you should find time to pop into Lagos again.
Hope so.
Well, man, thanks, and we'll take a moment here, and we'll return shortly. Stay with us.